Hello and welcome to the Morrison Run, the podcast where we read and review everything written by Grant Morrison. I'm Angwin.
I'm Bertie.
And I'm Leon.
And today we are reading Ice Cream Man issue 43, a series of short stories, a few of them written by Grant Morrison. I say we just jump in. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Is good.
So this whole issue is one-page stories, and a lot of them are written by W. Maxwell Prince, who is the regular writer on Ice Cream Man, and drawn by Martin Morazzo, who's also the regular artist. But then there's a couple of guest writers and one or two guest artists as well across this issue. Grant Morrison has two stories. So let's talk about the first one, which is called Hell Freezes.
A very funny premise. It's kind of built on that idea, you know, when people say that'll happen when hell freezes over, right?
Yeah. It literally...
Ice cream is frozen.
Mm.
It's a frozen good. So.
Yeah. Before we jump in, maybe it'd be a good idea just to kind of give context. When did this come out?
This came out this year.
When did Ice Cream come out?
This year, yeah.
I think it came out this year, or maybe last year. And it's it's after Ice Cream Man has been going on as a series for a while by Image Comics. It's debatable whether Image is indie, but I would describe this as like an indie comic, especially just in it being like a horror comic that spoofs and parodies other comics and has like quite a unique take on things. Ice Cream Man normally is like a Goosebumps style anthology where every issue is like a little horror story, and often it connects to this sort of overarching villain of the Ice Cream Man, who's sort of like just like a devil character who's just like causing evil and such. But this one issue that has one-page short stories is sort of like a microcosm of that whole Ice Cream Man series, because it's like you get loads of short stories in one issue. And I think it was a big deal for the Ice Cream Man creative team to get Grant Morrison on this issue, because they've expressed being big fans of Grant Morrison and have parodied Grant Morrison work such as All-Star Superman before.
Yeah, I've just read the first issue of Superman the Kryptonite Spectrum by the same team, and that is very clearly an homage in certain ways to All-Star Superman, or at least I think if you're a fan of All-Star Superman, definitely worth checking out, because it tackles similar themes of that like existential dread around the character whilst also combining lots of elements of the character's history and stuff, so you can tell there's inspiration.
Yeah.
Wait, Leon, you said this is indie. It kind of, even though Image might not be, this is like an indie comic.
Yeah, I mean, Image is a massive company, but it was, founded to be independent, and the writers and artists have the rights over their own stuff. So
yeah, because I ask because it feels indie. It feels like it doesn't pull punches with certain things. Like, obviously it's got its tone, and its tone isn't like incredibly scary, you know what I mean, or too edgy or whatever. But I don't feel like they've had to write much past people. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think that's exactly right. The only reason I say you could debate about Image is that I think you would definitely call it an indie publisher. We'll talk about this more, I'm sure, but for example, they released It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth by Zoe Thorogood, which is like truly just an indie graphic novel that happens to be published by Image. But I say it's debatable because they also like Image owns like Spawn, or published Spawn, which is just like massive, and like that's on par with DC Marvel franchises, you could say. So still, this is definitely an indie comic.
Yeah. Angwin just mentioned before we started recording that one of the short stories is just a New York Times page of I think it was just after Trump was elected a second time.
Oh,
which is obviously DC and Marvel can have progressive themes, but can't be as explicit with their political leanings and stuff.
Leanings. Yeah.
This was I was actually surprised that Image were comfortable publishing that as well. So I think that was just interesting, kind of.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny. Like, I think that in a way, I think a lot of these stories have that sort of like biting comedy, right? Where like one of the scary stories is just the fact that Trump became president, and it's like, yeah, that is scary, but it's kind of funny how that fits in with all these flipping, more ghoulish and horrific stories, more fantastical ones.
Genuinely, this comic specifically with all the one-page stories, it got me thinking about comics in a more abstract way as art, which I mean, a podcast like this, we exist to celebrate comics as art, but just like things that could be described as gimmicks, like a comic page with no words, or a comic page that is literally just like a copy of an article, reminds me of like abstract and modern art, and it gets me thinking about comics in a way where you could do anything with a comic page. The comic page can be anything, and I think it's beautiful to be reminded of that. Like, it's awesome that this issue can do that.
Yeah, and also the sort of underground comic scene or indie comic scene does have a lot of overlap with like zine culture, which isn't necessarily always comics, but sometimes it's like we've got one that's just a parody of a newspaper. It's all words, but there's certain choices that make use of it being a visual, like illustrated medium. Like, we've got some handwritings, like a little bit of imagery in the corner and stuff. So it's not necessarily like you're reading a book,
Yeah.
Could you explain what you mean by zines?
Zine. I feel like I should have a definition, really. I know it's like self-published magazines, I think is the simplest term, but I think it's kind of, a lot of people are making comics and just, selling them at little markets as zines. Other people are maybe making collages and, maybe documenting photography and stuff in just little self-published magazines. Maybe it's a one-of-a-kind, or maybe they're selling it at some, small press.
Zines are often like handmade and like a really small size, and they're a uniquely indie thing. It's like you can't reproduce a zine as part of a like a mega corporation couldn't make a zine but felt like good.
Yeah, I get you.
The appeal of them is the kind of handmade and indie nature of them.
Yeah. It might not even be a zine. It would just be like a short story, if they mass produced it. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, some libraries I've been to now as well are just kind of collecting them from local donations and stuff. People who just want to share stuff. I think that's kind of nice.
Awesome.
Okay, now that we've got context, I guess we jump right into the story. What Hell throws over.
Yeah, this is the first Grant Morrison story, and first of two Grant Morrison stories in here. It's on page 5 for those with the issue, and in this story, it's, as it says on the tin, hell freezes over because of global warming and the rest, as the comic says. But this has implications for hell as a whole, where good things happen that were never going to happen until then. So there's basically like peace between all the people of hell. It says like Muslims, Jews, and Christians all shook hands, hugs, and dance. And then women were respected and their opinions valued all around the world. So these are all things that you would say, that'll happen when hell freezes over, is obviously the point there. And then
there's a few, like, when I said it was funny, I said these stories were funny, I was mostly referring to this one, when there's like the first one that got me, that I thought was funny. It's just like hell freezes over and it says women were respected and their opinions valued all around the world, and I just think like And Morrison just being like, yeah, because that's never gonna happen. It's like it's just like in the same way that like the Trump one is like bitingly like sort of like biting political comedy. It's just it's it was just kind of it just hit me as like it's been so long, and it's probably just gonna happen when Hell freezes over. And then the one after that confused me. I had to do some research. It says like wrongly accused Pietro della Vigna received a startling blow while the International Workers' Revolution was accomplished. And it's basically like, in a weird way, hell freezes over, right? This sort of like benign event in a horrific place, and then it almost feels like the world just becomes a paradise, right? Yeah. And it's like I guess that's the whole point, right? At the end, there's this eerie like we all had ice cream. Ice cream man passes Satan and ice cream or whatever, right? Yeah. But even so, that is still kind of cute, and I think a lot of these stories are scary. This one doesn't strike me as that scary. It's more just like kind of funny and goofy, while also dealing with obviously like the occult or whatever.
Yeah, the depiction of Satan is really cool. He's got like 3 faces and massive wings.
Yeah,
he just looks pretty cool.
I agree.
This
sort of like a Janus type thing. I think this might be because this story seems to draw a lot from like the Divine Comedy, right?
Right.
Where it talks about like the Ninth Circle. It talks about this like Pietro guy is talked about in the Divine Comedy, right? So maybe it's from the Divine Comedy. Obviously, my knowledge of that isn't scholar level, but I agree. I just think that the way he's drawn is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the art style in this whole page, it's drawn by Martin Marazzo, who does most of the stories in this, and he does most of Ice Cream Man. But he's not quite drawing in his normal style. This whole page is sort of monochrome. It's sort of sepia-toned. And I would say it's drawing in a style that, like, it looks like illustrations from, like, Alice in Wonderland, kind of. Like, it looks like old school book illustrations. And I really enjoy that style.
I do just want to check, is it by him? Because it says art by Martin Marazzo and Chris O'Halloran, except for 3 stories.
I think Chris O'Halloran does the colours.
I see, right. I just wasn't sure because I was like, like you said, it does stand out. It looks very different.
Also, really random detail, but I a peek behind the curtain, I already made the thumbnail and stuff for this episode. And this page, it looks like it's all grey-toned and black and white, but when I upped the saturation, it does have colour to it, like the ice cream cone had a slight pink hue to it and stuff.
That's some Matt Pat stuff, man.
Yeah, so I think I think
theory.
I think that's just interesting because it's like, we're taking this old school kind of black and white style, but in the modern day we can add a slight bit of color to it to maybe just give it some more depth.
Mm.
Yeah, I also, since we've been talking about indie comics, I have seen before like this kind of single page format, or like not necessarily comics, but that kind of comic art style done with traditional printing techniques, which this looks a little bit like, just with the kind of quite it's like a black, grey, white, and obviously there are other tones and gradients, but that's like it could have been printed on like brown paper with a sort of traditional techniques. If you can tell it isn't, you can tell it's digital, but it does look a bit like that. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, I mean, I say this looks like gothic, like Victorian era book and newspaper illustrations, but it also looks like 70s indie like pulp comics as well.
Yeah.
This looks like it could be from one of those black and white Conan the Barbarian stories or something. But the ending of the story, we kind of brushed over it. Like, we all made ice cream, and we say a hand presenting ice cream to the devil. But, I mean, if we look at the story in the context of Ice Cream Man as the series and the world of Ice Cream Man, then is that sort of like, what does that mean? Because in the Ice Cream Man series, the Ice Cream Man himself is sort of like the devil. He's kind of implied to be the devil. So is this the Ice Cream Man overcoming the devil and taking his place, or is this the devil being presented with ice cream and becoming the Ice Cream Man?
In my head, it's almost like I think there are many stories which have a devil figure and then like an actual depiction of Satan, and Satan always tends to be like a second fiddle, if you know what I mean, to like the more, I don't know, like scary main version, like main villain. So that's kind of that's the way I'm seeing it. Almost like Ice Cream Man is being presented there as the main villain, the overall villain, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Perhaps like because it says at the end, that's what we did this summer. Hell froze over. The idea is that maybe hell freezes over and then Ice Cream Man makes everything bad again.
Right.
Yeah, I know there's some like really weird lore to the Ice Cream Man there, and I need to like maybe read up on a bit more, because I've read I think first 12 issues, and there was like a flashback thing where I don't know if it was the Ice Cream Man or like the original Ice Cream Man, but then him and then a cowboy who also is a recurring character.
Yeah, there's like Cowboy God or something.
I think he's like the opposite of the Ice Cream Man or something.
Yeah, I remember
maybe
him.
They're brothers or something. It's been a while, and maybe I'll read a bit more, because I'm kind of like thinking about it, getting quite intrigued by the whole thing. So maybe this
what do you
fits
think,
into
Leon?
the canon, maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
I'm seeing it. Yeah.
I think the ending of this is up to interpretation, but it's clearly linking into the Ice Cream Man kind of world, or at least the ideas and the themes. Like I don't know that it's Grant Morrison is like purposefully trying to do something super specific and crazy with the specific lore of Ice Cream Man. But this ending in some way adds to the myth of Ice Cream Man, and is up for interpretation. But I think that's the best way to do it, especially in a one-page story like this.
I do have a feeling, though, just the way in which some of the stories don't even have the Ice Cream Man at all, that maybe Grant Morrison was allowed to just do anything, like, was given no, like, overview on, like, yeah, this is how we want to fit it into the story. I think it might have just been
exactly
free reins. And I think that's kind of also how Ice Cream Man works. I don't think they have, like, a planned story. I think it's very anthology, very kind of mysterious. I don't think you ever really will learn about the Ice Cream Man or his role in the world. So I think that kind of works with what they're doing there. Maybe. I've not read, all of Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll move on to the second Grant Morrison story, The Horror.
Home with the Colonel.
Yeah. Well, it in the sort of contents it's called The Horror, but then on page it says At Home with the Colonel.
Well, because I believe this is based on Marlon Brando's character from Apocalypse Now, who is Colonel something.
Oh.
And I haven't seen that, but I looked into it, looked into this comic, and watched the monologue of that character talking about seeing a snail slither over a razor blade.
I watched a snail crawl along the edge of a straight razor.
And I think the horror is linked to an iconic line from the film, but I haven't seen it, so I don't want to talk too much on that.
I didn't know that.
This is cool. That's some really cool stuff from Grant.
I didn't know that at all, so I just took this story at face value, and what the story is we see a guy holding a razor blade with a snail on it, and then we sort of see the snail slither on it and get chopped in half, and then the guy says, "The horror," and we see two halves of a snail sort of still slithering. And that's the whole story. To me, reading this, I didn't have any of that context, and it didn't mean much to me. I just kind of thought, okay, one-page story, let's just look at a gross thing.
Right. Well, I don't think this, from my understanding, I don't think this would add any, like, in like the fanfic sense, like context to the film. I think it's more of like a kind of a disturbing bit of dialogue that Grant Morrison saw potential in with Martin Morazzo. I think, you know, they obviously had this vision of how Morazzo could draw this grotesque one-page story, and it worked. Like, it is pretty horrific to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this page really feels like Martin Morazzo's bag. It's like,
yeah,
just drawing like a weird guy's face and like a gross little snail. Like, I feel like that's everything Martin Morazzo would want to draw.
Yeah, even the just the text, which shows a sound effect, kind of distorts and stuff, and it just reading it makes me feel a bit weird, kind of imagining what that sounds like. I don't like to think about it, really.
Me neither.
And the snail still looks like it's slithering, even though it's been dissected, so it's a bit unpleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's a lot more body horror. It kind of leans a lot more on the like the kind of depiction of the snail being cut in half.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, it's good. It's good. It's for me. It didn't have like the staying power, maybe because it doesn't have the comedy of the first story, like Hell Freezes. But I think that Martin Morazzo, he makes you scream, and I guess that's the whole point.
I'm gonna stop looking at that now.
Yeah. Should we talk about? I mean, so we've done our job now, which is talking about the Grant Morrison contribution. But since we're looking at this issue, we might as well chat about some of the other stories in here and celebrate
100%.
Some other artists and writers as well. Are there any stories that you guys want to touch on that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind, and I want to start with this one because I feel like this one is easiest to explain and kind of digest. There's this like WikiHow black and white wiki.
I was just looking at that one.
Guide where it's I get the impression you get is that it's teaching you how to like get people to like you, right? At a party, right? Yeah. And it starts with a guy kind of like stood at a party, like no one's talking to him. There's a faint meow from his coat, right? And you're like, that's a bit weird, right? And then like step 2 is he sees his ex-wife talking to somebody, and he's imagining that they're talking about how bad he is. And ultimately, the guide on how to get people to like you is to stand on a table, pull out a kitten, and eat the kitten, right? And it's just, I love the way this is depicted because, like, I don't know why, but I've read a lot of WikiHow in my life, and it is just like a very distorted, gross version of one of those. It's like there are so many WikiHows where it's like, how to, get people to like you or whatever, right? And this is just, it's awful. It's horrible, especially because like it's clear it's maybe from this character's perspective. Maybe this character is trying to teach people how to like do whatever. Teach people how to like win people over, and it's just this kind of gross, because the cat looks so it just looks so sad. It's about to be eaten, and because of the way it's depicted, there's this almost like gross self-confidence from the main character. Like he's teaching you, like he's allowed to teach you how to get people to like you, and even though he just does this horrific thing.
Yeah, I think what makes it really work is that it never drops the premise. Like, I think it's, even right at the end, it's still a guide on how to, I think I read it as like how to behave at a workplace conference.
Exactly, yeah.
And it just still, like, it describes, eating the kitten and stuff, but it says, step 6, eat the kitten, impress everyone with the way you can unhinge your jaw, enjoy being the life of the party, the belle of the ball.
And then the kitten's got this like meow question mark.
Yeah. So I think that was actually unsettling, but it really works as a short horror story. I think that maybe impressed me the most in terms of what you can do in one page.
And that one's also it's monochrome, it's in black and white, So it not only does it look like WikiHow, but it also looks like a printout that would be like handed around in office.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a perfect way to describe it. No,
and I think like borrowing from other mediums that are one page, like leaflets or posters, is a good way to go about it. Like, that works in that context. So adding this twisted aspect to that, it's almost a bit like what I've seen some people do on Instagram, where they're kind of making like fake motivational posts or whatever with their weird artwork, and or like kind of silly things, silly posters and sticking them around, or I think it's parody art, and I think it works. Yeah.
That one's there. I really like that one. I mean, how about you guys? Anything stand out to you? Obviously, Bertie liked this one. What you Leon? Like, which one did you really like?
Just the one that stood out to me. It's so simple. It's literally the second story. And the caption is just, "Little Billy, he fell down the well, but he never hit the bottom." Which is such a simple premise, and it just makes for a nice one big splash page piece of art of Billy falling down the well, and there's loads of crazy stuff around him. And I don't think it means loads. It just captures a common horror story of, someone falling into an environment that they're sort of lost in. But I just think it made for a really great page.
No, I agree.
Just artistically.
Lots of little things to look at as well in the well.
Yeah.
I like the contrast. There's like this really cute teddy, and then everything else is horrific. There's this like weird, bulbous kind of half insect, half man exploding into a bunch of earthworms and a spider. And I think it's great. I really like it because there's a like Gravity Falls episode with this exact same premise. They fall in an infinite hole or whatever, right? But they kind of retcon the ending where they just fall out of the end or something. It's like they realize something and then they fall and then it ends or whatever, right? But this, I guess, they have to do that because of it's a show. But with this one-page story, they can just fully commit to the premise, and it's a lot more scary that way.
For sure. The guy you mentioned, like the insect bulbous guy, looks kind of like Mojo from X-Men. Mojo of the Mojoverse. I would love to see Martin Morazzo draw a Mojo story for X-Men. I think he would kill that. But are there any ones you want to talk about?
Well, I've been flicking through, and I just was looking at that Candy World one. That's like a board game, and you see this like kind of Dr. Seuss style poem on around all the board game tiles, and it's just kind of this is a more traditional Ice Cream Man story that's just like a kind of Goosebumps-esque scary story, but I don't know, it just kind of twisted the tone of like children's storybooks, and I thought it was I don't know, just quite well made.
Yeah.
Noticed as well just now there's the field of rainbow flowers in Candy World, and those were also falling down the well. So.
Oh right.
Oh yeah.
Maybe the well was in Candy World. I don't know.
The one right after that I really like, where there's no words. It's just a house and a man reading this sort of like pulp crime comic called Real Page Turner, which again I find a lot of these stories quite funny. But it's about this killer that's on the loose, but the panel syncs up exactly with the panel within the story, that because he's reading a comic book within the short story, lines up with the next panel of the actual story, where it's the exact same killer done the exact same way, and it's clear that like the killer is coming to kill this guy, running into his house, right? And the final panel, I actually love it so much. It is a POV shot from the killer stood over him with a knife whilst he is sat reading like this story unfold from the POV of the killer. I just think it's really fun.
I love that one as well. It's a classic premise that I've seen in like comedy skits and things like that. but I just felt it was done so well here in this one page, especially with no words. I think this was great without words, and this was written by Deniz Camp, who is writing some of the best comics out right now.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what it means for him to have written this if there's no words, but nevertheless, it's great.
Yeah, well, you still have a script for these stories.
Yeah, I know.
I just noticed it's got the sort of Watchmen panel layout, because I was just thinking the killer looks a bit like the Rorschach. I can't pronounce it. Rorschach?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just looks a bit on a different art style as well. I don't know if that was just an artistic tribute, possibly.
No, yeah, that's true. I mean, Ice Cream Man loves to like pay odes to comic history, and I mean, I feel like whenever you do that 9-panel page layout, you're always referencing Watchmen a little bit.
Yeah.
The story right after that is a big one, and I don't even know how to tackle it, but I feel like we need to talk about it. It's by Zoe Thorogood, and it's kind of like a love letter to her brother, who unfortunately committed suicide. And this is like a fully real story. This is fully true. And I'm a massive fan of Zoe Thorogood's work. I mentioned her earlier. She wrote It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth. She wrote The Impending Blindness of Billy Scott. And I think those are incredible comics. But this was like right after that event happened, and she just used this opportunity to write just a really raw story that, you know, I mean, it does fit the horror theme, but just touching on those real feelings of grief. I mean, it literally uses photographs in the story. Like, it's making it very explicit that this is real. Even there's a panel where we see like a British police officer with the British police jacket, and that even just feels out of place in this overall comic. Not in a bad way, but it just strikes me as feeling especially real, because obviously we're in the UK and we see those police, and you don't expect to see them in a comic like this.
This is just a personal opinion, but like the center panel, because this is another 9-page story, a 9-panel page, right? The center one, so I guess this is the 5th one. It has like a black still of her brother drawn with text over his face, and anything like that, whenever it's like a front facing image of like a character, a drawn character, even a person, and only their face is distorted by some sort of text or cover up, it always just like unsettles me. It makes me kind of sad and scared.
Yeah.
I don't even know why.
I mean, I think that 9-panel layout is like is so well designed to make it like there's so much you can do with it, and like one of the things is whatever you put in the center is really important. And whenever I just look at this whole page, I'm drawn to that panel in the center, because it's also, the background of it is completely black as well, of that panel. So that with the white text, your eyes are just drawn to that immediately. And at the end of this whole issue 43, it says in the credits, in loving memory of James Thorogood, which I think is lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One that I really liked, and I spoke about this a bit before we started recording. There's this sort of like, I don't know how you describe it, like a sales leaflet. It says, "For sale, baby shoes never worn," right? And it's this short story, this lady explaining from a first-person perspective her 25-month pregnancy, right? And her baby grows extra big, and her husband runs off and to the Himalayas, and the doctor runs off to the Himalayas. And I mean, for some reason, this one really unsettled me. I won't talk for him, but he was saying how he found this one more odd. But I don't know why. Like, there's no like image aside from the shoes at the beginning, right? But it just really scares me. I don't know why. Maybe the Himalayas, maybe because they ran off to the same place. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I do think this is the maybe the strangest one there. Just the because the horror of it is just the fear of giving birth to a 25-month baby who's over a year old and learning to talk within a week. Like that's like a really random thing to kind of make a horror story out of, and I think it is kind of scary because they're describing the labor and stuff. They're kind of 25 months of, well, not, all these, like an extra year of anxiety around this baby, this giant baby called Agatha, which is a bit of a, an old name for a baby.
Also, this story, it's mostly written out as like typed out text, but then this sort of other text that looks like it's been like scrolled on by hand that it mentions the rainbow flower. This is another mention of the rainbow flower. What's the rainbow flower? I'm actually like so intrigued now.
Went to Candyland.
Yeah.
I think just extra context as well. I'm pretty sure the For Sale Baby Shoes Never Worn was a viral Twitter post where there was a competition to like write a 2-sentence horror story, and the winning one was For Sale Baby Shoes Never Worn. And I think it got memed a little bit. Like people were kind of writing a load of extra context, or kind of ruining the subtlety. But this is kind of playing on that a bit, adding so many extra sentences to kind of changing it completely, and kind of funny in that way, but also
two-sentence horror can be like awesome. The line between horror and comedy is very thin, which is why horror comedies exist so strongly as a genre. But it's, especially in 2 sentences, it's like anything that's horrifying could so immediately be funny as well. So it's very easy to see how any 2-sentence horror story could end up being memed, because it's just like
especially one that's kind of a little bit ambiguous.
Well, I mean they're all ambiguous, really. Like
because I mean when we read For Sale Baby Shoes Never Worn, at first we probably thought the baby died, but we didn't know the whole time that it was actually a 21-pound baby who didn't fit into baby shoes.
We talked about the well story earlier, but I just want to touch on it again, because I think what that story, it doesn't really have much of a conclusion to it. It's just like he fell down the well and he never hit the bottom. But I think what this sort of represents, especially in the context of Ice Cream Man, in the context of this issue, is sort of just like falling into the world of horror, and like he was looking down the well because of some sort of like dark intrigue, and then he fell down, and now he's like obsessed with horror. That's sort of the
I think that maybe should have been the first story actually in this.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
But the first story,
we're falling into the horror as well as the audience. I think it would have worked.
I do think it would have made more sense like that as the first story. However, I do also think the very first story in this, which is called Baby Grand Piano, it wasn't one that stuck out to me that much. But Baby Grand Piano, compared to a lot of the other stories in here, it doesn't have as much as like this isn't like the most respectful word, but like it doesn't have like much of a gimmick or exciting thing to it. It's a pretty standard comic page and a relatively standard horror story. So I think having that one first and then to be subverted by the Billy falling down the well, which is much more striking, that does work as a reading experience as well.
I do think there are a couple stories in here that maybe escape the limitations of a one-page story by just making the panels really small.
Yeah,
especially the cooking one. I think it was a good little horror story, but is it kind of I feel like there's a challenge in doing something in one page, and I don't know. It just felt like a bit of an easy way out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think with this story specifically, I also don't want to spoil all the stories because I definitely recommend. Right. I think with this one, the fact that it's so drawn out makes the ending hit a bit harder. A lot of these are helped by their brevity. I do think the fact that this one's a bit long means that the ending is drawn out a bit more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
because it's him on a cooking show. So
that story is written by Jeff Johns as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's a cool get. I think it's all the artists or all the writers, the bigger writers here that contributed this, like Jeff Johns and Grant Morrison. I think it's just very cool because it kind of shows a respect for indie comics still, and just supporting new and exciting comics. I mean, I think because we often think of Grant Morrison as someone who did sort of indie comics in the 80s and 90s, and then sort of graduated to doing mainstream comics. But Grant Morrison has still been creating tons of indie self-owned comics throughout this whole time, and writing stories for an Ice Cream Man special just speaks to that as well. Just making a small contribution to what's going on in indie comics right now is really cool.
I think that's good, yeah, because like Grant Morrison, Alan Moore hasn't really written in many major comics in a while, but has done a few little contributions to. So, for example, there was an environmental sort of magazine with a series of comics by some famous creators. They stepped in for a few smaller publishing companies. That environmentalist one, though, has got a crazy lineup because it's got I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff Johns is in it. I think Ram V, Jeff Lemire, some of the biggest comic writers, Alan Moore. But then there's also Yoko Ono did a story.
What?
Steve Backshall.
Whoa.
I think at Judge Rinder, there's just some crazy people writing these comics.
So you mentioned Jeff Lemire. He also writes a story in this Ice Cream Man special. It is the floating story on page 16. It's the one with someone's aunt drowned in their pool. It's that one.
Oh, that one's so sad. That one's the sad. That's the saddest one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't put that together before, but that's a very, I don't know. That's just got Jeff Lemire vibes to me. That story.
If I had to guess, I would have guessed the one about the mother and son on the farm, just because of Jeff Lemire's roots in slice of life, and Essex County, I think, is in a small town. Black Hammer's on a little farm, so that was the one I maybe thought was Jeff Lemire, but
I quite like that one, just that old school kind of
the farm one.
Yeah, farm town little story, that kind of vibe. I think that one's Lost. Is that Lost Sonnet? I just quite enjoyed that one. But you're talking about celebrities contributing to this kind of thing, and Patton Oswalt does a story in here.
Oh, damn.
It's the story Night Fishing on page 15.
Is this the one where they're summoning someone?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I wasn't really feeling this one. It just didn't really hit me. Sorry, Patton.
Yeah, unfortunately it didn't quite hit for me either. I just had trouble following it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. The impression I get is that it's just a bunch of different people summoning, I don't know, some sort of demon or whatever.
Yeah, it's a kind of tropey story about kids who are messing around with spells as a joke, and then turns out they're true, which I feel works better as a setup than a standalone story, because we've seen it before, to be honest. But I think there's still merit in
of course.
No, it looks great.
I think just for me personally, it just didn't have the same impact as some of these other stories. For other people, it might be more appealing.
Also, just looking up, Patton Oswalt is clearly a comic book fan. He was in Blade Trinity and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and MODOK and The Sandman.
Right.
So, clearly this is his bag. I guess he must have known about Ice Cream Man in order to do this story, so that's cool on his part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ice Cream Man's one of those things where if you've been on like comic book YouTube, it's probably popped up somewhere, like someone's reviewed it.
True.
There's a few fans I've seen on YouTube who unfortunately can't name, but it's semi-popular online.
I'm sure Comic Tropes has done a great video about Ice Cream Man. I don't know that for sure, but Comic Tropes makes great videos about comics, and especially comics like this. I could imagine that.
I feel like I remember there being one story where they mentioned like spiders linking to the Ice Cream Man, and I feel like that's referencing some sort of cover where there's like spiders coming out of the ice cream.
There's a cover where he's like just holding a spider, I think.
Yeah, I can actually see that at the back now. There's some of the like paperbacks, he's holding a spider. Actually, I think there's just a lot of spiders in Ice Cream Man.
Yeah, there's also a spider when the kid falls down the well. There's a spider in there.
I'd say arguably, not to cut us off, but I'd say arguably the scariest story is a story that stars the Ice Cream Man, where he introduces himself as Rick the Ice Cream Man. He gets you to look behind, look left, look right, flip upside down, and then he calls you a good boy. It's messed up. He calls you a good little buggy. It's not right.
Turn around, I was scared that the Ice Cream Man was going to be behind me in real life.
In real life, exactly. No, what I think just messed up is that, like, you're so vulnerable when you read comics, and you don't expect Ice Cream Man to troll you like this.
Because if Ice Cream Man was behind you, you wouldn't even know. You'd be
exactly
enjoying some comics.
Exactly.
So be careful, guys.
Be careful.
Watch
Ice
out.
Cream Man's
get you.
He's gonna.
Jesus.
That was awful. I didn't even know you had that. Where'd you get that from?
I searched up 5 Nights at Freddy's sound effect.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we might need a disclaimer for that. But that's fine. So that was Ice Cream Man. Thank you everyone for listening this week.
Yeah. This was a really enjoyable issue. I think like it's such an easy read as well. Like I'd recommend 100%. Anyone to check it out. There's a bunch of stories we didn't talk about. I don't think we talked about most of them. Like
yeah. Well, we would. I really didn't want to, just because like definitely read this, and I think it like even the ones we've described in like relative detail, we've probably done a disservice to. You gotta just read all of these. They are very good.
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite things we've read doing this, and not because Grant Morrison contributed. It's very much an artistic collaboration, and I think the contrast between these very different stories is what makes each one of them stand out, and I think it's definitely worth a read. I don't know if we said the issue number, but it's issue 43 of Ice Cream Man.
Yeah. Give it a read. Alright. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I've been Angwin.
Bertie.
I've been Leon.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Alright, should we leave a bit? We can say goodbye. We can say goodbye.
And with that, goodbye.
Bye.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?